Hi, boys and girls. This is Steve Hancock, your Sunday school teacher for Easter Sunday. What am I doing in this mask? Well, you've probably noticed people going to stores and out in the public, they're wearing masks today because of the coronavirus. It's kind of a sad thing, but you know, masks can be cool too. I like masks. When I was a little boy, I had several heroes that had masks. The first one I remember was the Lone Ranger. He was really cool. He had a mask so no one would know him when he wasn't out fighting bad guys. And he had a white hat, he had guns with silver bullets, he had a horse even named Silver. He was good and he always took care of people. Another hero back in the 60s, when they first came out with color TV, was a man named Batman and his sidekick Robin. They had masks and capes. How cool is that? And then there was one named Zorro. He had a black horse named Tornado, and he had a black hat and a black mask and a black cape. He wore black everywhere, and he had a sword, and he always marked Z after he'd come to a place that he wanted them to know he had been there, and he fought the bad guys and was always good. Another superhero had no mask, but he had a cape and a really cool suit named Superman. He could see through buildings, he could fly, and he was awesome. I liked heroes, and you'll find this hard to believe, but I had a hero that you all know about when I was a teenager. And the reason why I liked this hero was because he was a teenager too. He wanted to get away from the normal homework and work and go have an adventure. He wanted to drive a car. Back then they called them hovercrafts. His name was Luke Skywalker. And eventually he got to. He had a real adventure, and he had a sword, a saber, a lightsaber. It was cool. Luke was cool. I like heroes. Jesus is our hero we're going to talk about today. The reason he came seems strange, but he came to die. Why did he have to die? The Bible tells us that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, and that the wages of sin is death. It also tells us that without the shedding of blood, there is no way to forgive sin. So someone had to die because God is not only loving, but he is just. And a penalty had to be paid, and it had to be paid by someone who was perfect. There was nobody on earth that was perfect, so God himself came in disguise, and he took our penalty. But before we get into our lesson, I want to play a game, because I like games. Now, if we were watching VeggieTales, we'd have silly songs with Larry, but I don't sing very well, so we're going to have a game instead. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do something Mr. Enman does to raise funds for his youth group sometimes when he does his trivia night. We'll play Dead or Alive, okay? So I'm going to give you a name, a person, and I want you to look at the camera and tell me if it's dead or alive, and you say it out loud, okay? Moms and dads, you can play along too. Okay, here's the first one. George Washington, dead or alive? He's dead. He's one of my favorite heroes. He was a leader of the Revolutionary War and the first president. All right, another one. Christopher Columbus, the founder of our country. He came over here to tell everybody about Jesus and to find India, but he found a new world instead, and he did tell people about Jesus, I'm sure. But unfortunately, he's dead too. How about Thomas Jefferson? He made the Constitution of the United States, and you see him on Mount Rushmore. His face is up there with George. Nope, he's dead too. How about Thomas Edison? He gave us the telephone, not the cell phone, but the telephone. Some of us remember what that was about. And electric light bulb and some other really cool inventions. Nope, Thomas Edison is dead too. How about Paul Revere during the Revolutionary War? He warned us about the British coming. Nope, he's dead. How about Albert Einstein, great scientist? Nope, he's dead. How about Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll? Nope, he's dead too. Doggone. How about Walt Disney? He made us the cool movies. Nope, he's dead too. How about Moses, the famous leader of the Israelites? We've learned in Sunday school that he's long dead too. And William Shakespeare, a great writer. Nope, he's dead too. How about my favorite writer of all time, C.S. Lewis? Unfortunately, he's dead too. Only his books live on. How about my favorite president, Abraham Lincoln? Nope, he's dead too. Abraham Lincoln fought against slavery as well, and we're going to learn that Jesus fought against the slavery of sin. That's why he is our hero today. Jesus, wait a minute, Jesus, dead or alive? He's not dead, he's alive. He died, but then he rose again from the dead, and that's what our story's about. How cool is that? Okay, so here's what I'm going to have you do. I want you to think where would we find the story of Jesus? It's in his biographies, of course. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all of them wrote about his life. If you go in there later after I'm done talking, you can find these stories and read them for yourselves. They're all in all four of them. The first place we go to, and I'm going to call this story, it's Friday, but Sunday's coming. Okay, on Friday, they were in a room and they were having Jesus' Last Supper, which is sad. He knew it was his last meal, but he told them about how the wine represented his blood that was going to be shed for them, and the bread was going to represent his body. And he told them, I am going to die. And they didn't believe it. And he even told them somebody was going to betray him. But they went ahead and had the meal and were confused and didn't know what he was talking about. And Judas left to go sell him for 30 pieces of silver. They sung a hymn and then they went out to pray, as they always did, out in the Garden of Gethsemane. And Jesus was really, really troubled and sad. And they were wondering why, but they kept falling asleep because it was so late. I have that trouble too. But he did 3 times, he woke them up. And he was so sad, it says he sweat drops of blood. He knew he was going to die, and yet he was going to do it willingly for us. Then just at the last minute, he told them, hey, wake up. My betrayers come. And they came with torches and clubs and swords and spears, and they arrested Jesus. They put him on trial 3 times, one in the Jewish leader's house, one in another leader's house, and then they finally took him to Pilate, the Roman leader. And he was the one that had the authority and the power to kill Jesus. And so they beat him, and they put on a robe and mocked him as a king and put a crown of thorn on his head, and he was beaten so bad none of his friends could even recognize him. Then they made him carry this terrible, hard wooden cross up a hill called the Skull, or Golgotha, and there he died with 2 thieves on either side of him. They abused him verbally too. Only one of them finally repented and believed in him. Others made jokes about Jesus, but he said everything he was supposed to say according to the prophecies. And when he died, it got really dark. In the middle of the day, there was an earthquake, and even the Roman centurion said, this truly was the Son of God. Well, it was Friday, but it was Sunday. It was still coming. They took him down off that cross. A guy named Nicodemus, you probably remember him, and a man named Joseph put him in a tomb, and they rolled a big stone in front of this cave or tomb so the animals wouldn't get there. And then everybody had to go because it was the Sabbath, and they couldn't do any work on the Sabbath days. For a whole day, Jesus was in that tomb. And the women that had saw where he was buried came back the very next day. But it was Sunday. Sunday came. And when they got there, the rock was gone. And the angel were sitting there and somewhere inside telling the women, he's not here. He rose just as he said. He really is our rescuer, our hero. They went and told everybody. Jesus showed up to more than 500 people over the next 40 days. They didn't imagine this. People really saw him and told people about it. And he really did rise from the dead. And that's what we celebrate on Resurrection Sunday. It's not about Easter eggs and rabbits. It's about Jesus and his resurrection. So when you think of Easter, remember, it was Friday, just like with the coronavirus. It's Friday, but Sunday is coming. There's hope. Jesus will give us hope. Now I want you to imagine a refrigerator. This refrigerator is huge. On that refrigerator is your picture with your name on it. That's Jesus' refrigerator. He thinks about you all the time. He is crazy about you. He loves you, and he died for you. That's why we celebrate Easter. See you soon. Love you.